Hey guys, it's Nicole, and today I have a video featuring die cuts from Cheeky's Studio. I am going to be using the Wildflowers 4-pack, which you will see later on towards the end of the video. And I just wanted to go ahead and mention that this video is part of a design team hop. So if you found my video via being a subscriber to my channel, be sure to check out the description box below. There will be links to other videos for the design team and more information regarding the hop you can find below, as well as links to the Cheeky Studio store and a discount code if you are going to be shopping. So our sort of design challenge for this hop was mostly focused on new beginnings, and a lot of the girls were doing like a one little word for the year or something kind of along those lines, and I don't really do that. So for me, I just decided that I was going to do like an album opening page. Usually I try to have the first page in my yearly albums be something that's not necessarily like a traditional layout that has journaling and is focused on like an event or anything. I like to just have something that sort of has a picture of the members of my family and just something that's kind of obvious that it's, a new year. So for me, you'll see later, I went with Hello 2018. And when I was sort of trying to come up with an idea of what I wanted to do, I kept kind of wanting to do sort of like a quadrant style layout. And it probably would have been easier on me if I had gone and found a sketch, just because that's sort of in my wheelhouse as far as what I like to do and what I feel comfortable doing. But you'll see here in a little bit that is not what I did. I just kind of winged it, and this was one of those layouts that I did off and on over the course of an entire day. So maybe start to finish in real time, it probably took me 2 hours, but it was more like I would go upstairs for 15 minutes and I'd come down and do stuff around the house and kind of really think about what I wanted to do. And the clips are going to seem a little bit out of order, but this was the order that I worked in. So I wanted to focus on using more of my card making supplies in my layouts, mostly because I keep buying them. I like to use them. I like to incorporate them. So when I can, I want to kind of do that as much as possible. And I had asked for some of the Distress Oxide inks for Christmas, so I was really wanting to try those out. So in the first clip you saw me doing just some ink blending, and I splattered it with water, and I had used the Worn Lipstick color. And here you can see a close-up. I also pulled out a stencil that I've never used, bought, and just kind of had sitting in my stash. So I was taking a bunch of stuff and incorporating it into my layout. That 3x4 card notebook die thing that I have, I absolutely love that thing. I use that thing all the time. For me, it's my go-to when I want to make my own journaling spot, and it's my go-to for when I am doing my version of like messy layers. I know a lot of people scrapbook that style where it's a lot of messy layers and you're just kind of coming up with your own thing. That's not typically how I start. So I was kind of surprised that this was sort of where I was going with this layout. Because I'm using a set of die cuts that Tuesday made, it's not something that was made from like a scrapbook company where it's got papers that match and stickers that match. So everything else I'm pulling from my stash. So I had pulled a blue plaid that I liked, and a wood grain, and a white cardstock, and that was what I used for the base of my layout. And then from there, it was easier for me to dig through my 6x6 pads than it was for me to dig through all of my 12x12 paper. So that was what I went with. And I did a quick look through of my actual pads, pulled out anything that I thought might work, and then I took them over to my desk and I did a really quick flip through, ripped out anything that I thought might work. And I was mostly focused on blues, pinks, and neutrals. And in this instance, the neutrals that I was leaning towards was more like newspaper print, phone book type print. It was a No, I can't think of who the manufacturer is on that. I don't know. The whole pad is like that, where it's like grid paper, notebook paper on one side, and then the other side is like newspaper prints and stuff like that, which I absolutely love. And then all the rest of the papers came from random pads. Some of the pink ones came from Christmas collections. The cloud one came from a baby collection. Some of the darker blues came from really, really old pads from my mind's eye. Again, I was not focused on trying to find a collection that fit what I wanted to use it for. I was just sort of color focused. And I pulled way more than I will use. That's typical for me. I like to have options. And then another of my go-to dyes that I like to use are Polaroids. And I have the small set for my favorite things, and then this larger one, which I think they call it a cover-up because I think it's supposed to be about the size of a card. I bought it intentionally to use it as like a Polaroid frame for photos. And what's nice is if you trim your photo down to a 4x4, it pretty much fits perfectly. So I just printed out a 4x6 and kind of cut off the end, and then just used glue dots to attach it. And all the Polaroids and the hello title phrase, I cut 3 or 4 layers and stacked them, mostly just because I like the look, and I like that by making it thicker, it feels a little bit more like a pre-made embellishment on your page and less like just like a flat paper layer. So again, because I'm not working with a collection, I don't sort of have a set of supplies that's all intentionally meant to work together. I'm just shopping my stash and kind of making things work. And so one of those steps was to use my dyes to kind of make my own embellishments. And by doing that, I can kind of control how the end result is going to look. So I wanted them to look more like a pre-made embellishment. And then the hello, you'll see later, I'm able to, because, I used white, I was able to change the color to pretty much anything. Okay, so at this point, I am slowly kind of working my way through the different quadrants and stuff. And I'm not measuring how I'm trimming down my papers. Typically, I am a scrap lifter. I follow sketches. I like linear. I typically don't like messy. I typically do not do messy layers. So it's just not something that I'm comfortable with. And knowing that, I didn't want to focus on it. So it was literally just cut it, see if it fit the relative space that I was wanting to put it in, and then I moved on. I was trying not to focus on the layers being perfect or measuring them and having them be a specific size. I just winged it. And like here, I felt like my photo was a little bit too big, so I went ahead and trimmed it down. And then that 3x4 notebook die, I ended up having it in each of the quadrants. So 3 of them I just die cut it out of pattern paper and used it in the layers, and then the pink one, again, I had done some ink blending, again mostly to make it look like a pattern paper or maybe like more like a pre-made die cut. And so this is pretty much kind of where I'm gonna be when the page is done as far as layers and stuff. And I did take a picture of it with my phone, but just because, again, I was up and down working on it off and on throughout the day, and I felt like by the time I took stuff off my layout and set it aside, or the cat came through to take a nap, the stuff was not gonna stay until I glued it down, and at this point I wasn't ready to glue it down. So I just took a quick picture, and then I slowly started working on attaching my layers together, but I will quickly get distracted from that and move on to something else here in a second, which is pretty typical for me. Most people, I think, would work through each step of your layout. I kind of tend to just work on whatever I'm in the mood for, and then at the end, everything kind of comes together. Okay, here's another thing that I don't typically do, but when I was sort of shopping my stash, I came across some mists that I had and that I had not used in forever. this gold one I don't even think I've ever used, and I'm pretty sure it's the Heidi Swap one that you can get at Michael's. And then I pulled out this really old Studio Calico white that I had, and went ahead and just did some splatters on the background, mostly just to give it a little bit more interest between those quadrants. And then here I decided I wanted to stamp a phrase on my Polaroid, so I just did a quick through my stamps. I think it was probably the 5th or 6th set that I came to, and I wasn't looking for anything specific. I wasn't looking for anything that said family. I just kind of went through the sets, read the phrases, and the first one that I found that fit the space that I had and fit the theme of my layout, I went with. This was already kind of an all-day project, and I didn't sort of want to make it longer by stressing out over my layers or, going through every single stamp set that I have and finding the perfect phrase to use. No, that was just not going to happen. So I went with what I had. And then I decided I wanted to do gold heat embossing on my hello phrase. This is when I realized that I need to start a shopping list, because I really need to go ahead and invest in tweezers to hold my stuff, because that thing gets hot and scissors don't hold it very well, and good quality embossing powder, because for whatever reason I thought I had a gold, and when I went and looked at the ones that I had bought recently, every color but gold. So gold is now on my shopping list to go ahead and pick up. And I did try to make sure that I kind of had a little bit of gold scattered throughout, and between the mist and the embossing powder, those are already sort of two different types of gold. So by the time I get to the end, when I'm going to add some Nuvo drops, it doesn't even bother me that there's a third gold color. I go with what I like, what I have, sort of what's available to me, and I just go with it. So at this point, the splatters that I had done are dry, and I'm ready to go ahead and start attaching all these little layers. And I did go ahead and pull that photo up back on my phone, just, for reference or whatever, just to kind of get it basically to what I had it as before. I wasn't doing, exact angles or anything like that. And then I pulled out a couple different sets of thickers that I had to see which ones I could go with 2018, so I had to check and make sure I had the right numbers, and then which ones I liked. And both of the aqua ones I had, I felt like it was just a different color and it wasn't going to work. So I went ahead with these pink foam ones, which are some of my favorites. For whatever reason, the foam thickers actually stick for me, and I don't have to go and add more glue, so it's not surprising that I would sort of lean towards those. And again, I normally, when I'm working on like a kit or following a sketch, I sort of go through each aspect of the process where, I do all my papers, I do all my photos, I'll do my title, my journaling, I'll do all my embellishments at the same time. This, for whatever reason, was just one of those layouts where I was just kind of all over the place, but it was working for me. So that was what I did. Like, instead of doing all of my layers for each quadrant and then moving on to doing embellishments, I just kind of was going with the flow and sort of doing whatever worked. And then the Wildflowers 4-pack that I was using had a lot of bright color florals, and then there was also like a good neutral, and I couldn't really tell, especially by the time it got nighttime here and my lighting started to suck, I couldn't really tell if the like greenery pieces that I was picking, if they're gray or if they're like this really pretty navy blue gray. But in my mind they're a navy blue gray, so let's go with that because navy blue gray matched my layout. So I just pulled pieces from the pack that were going to match, and there was like a brighter pink, a lighter peachy pink, and then those neutral like greenery pieces. And so I just kind of pulled all those out and had them on the side of my layout, and those were the ones that I used. So then when I go to use the other part of the pack for more layouts, the ones that are left in there are more of like the orangey ones, or I think there was more of like a red pink. So those I have available to do more of like a different color scheme layout, which is nice because there's a ton of those things in that pack. Like at first I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to, really pick and choose which ones I want to use, and I dumped them out of my desk, and you can see probably half of them sitting there. And I was like, oh, no, I don't have to pick and choose. There's like a ton of these things in here. Here I had to go and reprint my photo because scrapbooking PSA here for you. Don't do any heat embossing anywhere near your photos. They will crack. So I cracked my photo and I had to run downstairs and print a new one. So that was an easy fix, but for whatever reason it was just something that it didn't even occur to me. I was just kind of in like the go, go, go mode. And then like I said, I just went through and I picked flowers that I felt supported the color scheme that I was going with. And I just tried to make sure that each quadrant had a cluster and that they didn't have to be the same. Like there wasn't going to be the same flower in each cluster. It doesn't bother me to put a floral cluster in the quadrant with just my sun. I wanted each quadrant to sort of have something that together would make them cohesive. So that notebook die being used in each section helped. Having a floral in each section helped. And then when I go to do these gold Nuvo drops, that's just sort of another layer of having something throughout all 4 of the quadrants that goes together. And that's just something that I like to do with my clusters. And then I felt like it needed just a little bit of something, and for me that's stickers. So I found a little phrase sticker to put with my Hello 2018, and then I found another little label sticker to put in the top right. And then later I'm going to end up removing the stickers in the lower left quadrant, mostly just because I didn't like them, and I felt like it was better to just have nothing over there. So again, I just added a sticker there, and I'm going to end up pulling them off here in a second. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. So again, there will be links below the video to more information regarding the hop for the design team. Lots of girls involved in the hop. I have already seen some of the layouts that they've done over on our design team group, and I'm very excited to see their videos. And they'll all be up at the same time, so when you're done watching this, you can check out the information below and find more videos featuring Cheeky Studio die cuts to go ahead and check out. And then here are some still photos of my completed layout, and then I have a couple close-ups of each of the quadrants. So as always, I thank you for stopping by. I thank you for watching. Go ahead and leave me a thumbs up or a comment if you have any questions, and I will catch you guys in another video real soon.